You know that feeling, right? That pit in your stomach before you have to have that talk. Or maybe it's afterward, you're replaying it all in your head.
Oh, yeah. Over and over. What you should have said, what you wish you hadn't said. It's draining.
Totally.
Yeah.
And why do disagreements just spiral sometimes?
Yeah.
It feels like we get so caught up in making our points, we kind of lose the plot on how we're actually talking to each other.
It's a classic trap. We're focused on the facts, the logic, but the how, the actual human interaction part, that's where things often go sideways. We think we're playing chess,
Uh-huh.
but the other person, they might be dealing with a whole storm of emotions and perceptions we don't even see. It's like different games entirely.
Exactly. And that feeling, being stuck in those difficult conversations,
Yeah.
that's what we're really digging into in this deep dive.
Right.
We're drawing from Jefferson Fisher's book, The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More. And this isn't just theory. Fisher's background is pretty intense. Years as a trial lawyer.
Yeah, think about that. A trial lawyer. Their job is literally running towards conflict, day in, day out.
Right.
Going up against people whose whole goal is to make you lose. It's like the ultimate pressure cooker for communication skills.
He had to learn it all in the trenches, didn't he? Not just arguing points, but reading people, managing super high emotions, explaining complex stuff clearly.
And teaching his clients how to do the same thing when the stakes were incredibly high. He mentions law school teaches you the law, the statutes and cases,
Yep.
but not the empathy bit, not how to calm someone down or connect. That stuff he had to figure out on the job.
And then later, he starts sharing these practical tips on social media, right after opening his own firm. And people just latched onto it.
Massively. Millions of followers. People were clearly hungry for this kind of real-world advice. They kept asking him to put it all together.
So the book came from that, a way to teach it more formally. And he also talks about it being like a legacy for his kids, too.
Yeah.
His promise is basically, I'll give you the words you need.
And that's key, isn't it? Because the main idea is like, be confident, control your emotions. We've all heard that stuff before.
Yeah, it's not revolutionary on the surface.
But knowing what it actually looks like in a real conversation and having the specific phrases, the techniques, the word, like he says that's the missing piece for a lot of people. How do you actually do it when you're stressed or upset?
It's like knowing you should eat healthy versus having actual recipes and a meal plan. Big difference.
Exactly.
So this deep dive is really for you if you dread those tough conversations. Or maybe you avoid conflict but wish you could speak up more effectively, or just want to get your point across without burning bridges.
And Fisher has this super condensed version of his whole approach. He calls it the 47-second version.
Right, it's like his elevator pitch for the whole thing.
And it gives us a really solid framework for breaking down his key ideas, which is what we're going to do.
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack those core concepts, pull out the practical, actionable stuff, the how-to, and share some of the stories he uses to illustrate them. We'll focus on 3 main areas that come right out of that summary.
Sounds good. What's the first one?
First, why you absolutely have to control your own reactions first and totally ditch the idea of winning arguments.
Okay, crucial.
Second, how real confidence isn't something you just conjure up, it's actually an outcome. It flows from being assertive and using the right words.
Confidence as a result. Interesting.
And third, how framing conversations, especially the tricky ones, framing them for connection, changes the whole dynamic.
Playing for connection. Okay, got it.
But before we jump in, there's one piece of advice from the author we really need to echo, right?
Oh, definitely. This is important. He really stresses, don't try to swallow this whole thing at once.
Right.
As you listen, just pick one thing, one idea, one technique that really clicks for you, that feels relevant right now. Commit to practicing just that one thing. Try it out in your next few conversations. Get comfortable with it first before you try adding anything else.
That makes it feel way less daunting. Like, okay, I can try one thing.
Exactly. It's about building habits incrementally.
So keep that in mind as we go.
Mm-hmm.
Think about which piece feels like your starting point. We'll get into the details, use as examples, and bring it all to life. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, core idea number 1. Control your reactions. Forget about winning. This starts with a really powerful concept Fisher introduces right away.
Mm-hmm.
The person you see isn't the person you're talking to. What's that about?
It's about recognizing there's a surface level and a depth to everyone. What you see on the outside may be anger, maybe they seem defensive, maybe they shut down. That's just the surface.
Uh-huh.
Underneath that reaction, there's almost always something else going on, something deeper driving it that you can't see. He calls it the other conversation, the one happening inside their head that you're not part of.
Like an iceberg. You only see the tip.
Exactly that analogy. You're interacting with that little bit above the water, but the real mass, the real driver, is hidden beneath. He tells that amazing story about Bobby Lepre to illustrate this.
Oh yeah, the deposition story. Tell us about that.
So Bobby's this physically big guy, comes across as super aggressive in this deposition, yelling stuff like, "I don't trust you." The instinct, right, is to match that energy, argue back, get defensive.
For sure. Pushback.
But Fisher didn't. He stayed calm, gave Bobby space. And what came out was that Bobby's aggression wasn't about the lawyer or the case at all. His mom was in hospice, he was terrified, feeling alone.
Wow. So the aggression was really fear and anxiety underneath.
Completely. And the book uses other examples you can probably relate to, like the coworker who seems short-tempered. Maybe they're consumed with worry about a family member in trouble.
Or the cashier who seems distracted, maybe stressed about bills.
Or your partner seems tense after work. Maybe they had a nightmare day that has nothing to do with you. Their surface behavior is a signal from their hidden internal world, not necessarily a comment about you.
Okay, so recognizing this iceberg, this hidden stuff in others, why is that so crucial for us when we're in a conversation?
Because it stops you from taking things personally. And taking things personally, Fisher argues, is maybe the single biggest roadblock to effective communication, especially in conflict.
Taking it personally shuts down curiosity.
Exactly. If you can see someone's negative reaction as possibly coming from their own internal struggle, you're less likely to get hooked yourself. You won't immediately jump to defensiveness or feeling attacked. You can pause and think, I wonder what's really going on here. It opens the door to curiosity instead of just reacting.
Curiosity, not defensiveness. That feels like a huge shift. And speaking of reacting, the book digs into the biology of it, the physical side of conflict.
Yeah, this part is fascinating because it grounds it all in our bodies. It talks about the ignition phase. That's your fight or flight system, the sympathetic nervous system kicking into high gear.
That's when you feel like flooded, tense, brain fog.
Yep.
Heart pounds, breathing gets fast and shallow. Maybe you even hold your breath. You feel that heat rise, say things you regret later. It's your body prepping for a perceived threat, even if the threat is just words.
An ancient survival response.
Right. And then there's the cooling phase, if things de-escalate. That's the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, trying to bring you back to balance. But like a hot pan, the hotter the argument got.
The longer it takes to cool down. Makes sense.
And just noticing those physical signs in yourself, the racing heart, tight chest, the breath catching, that's powerful data. It tells you, okay, I'm in the ignition phase. It's natural, but it demands some curiosity. Why now? What just happened?
And that curiosity leads right into figuring out your triggers, doesn't it? The book says what triggers you teaches you.
Yes. It's like your own internal alarm system highlighting sensitivities. He breaks triggers down into two main types. Physical triggers are the obvious ones.
Like someone yelling, getting in your space, pointing. Exactly. Perceived threats to your safety. They bypass rational thought and send you straight into reaction mode.
But the psychological triggers are maybe more common day to day.
Definitely. These aren't about physical harm, but about our thoughts, our ego, our sense of self. One big category is social evaluation, worrying about what others think.
Like feeling awkward saying no to something or delivering bad news. FOMO.
All that stuff, it taps into our vulnerability about belonging and reputation.
And then there's the personal identity stuff. That seems huge.
It is. This is when something challenges your core sense of who you are, your competence feeling inadequate if corrected, your autonomy feeling controlled or micromanaged, your purpose feeling dismissed or irrelevant, your values when core beliefs get attacked.
Or even association, like if someone criticizes a political candidate you support, or maybe your family.
Exactly. It feels personal because that thing is tied to your identity. And the other big psychological trigger is simply lost fear of losing status, people, opportunities, whatever.
Okay, so knowing our own triggers is step one. How does that help us deal with other people's reactions? Does it help us, like, spot their triggers?
It absolutely does. It develops what Fisher calls discernment. It's like emotional intelligence plus. When you recognize the signs of ignition in yourself, you start to see them in others too. The stiff posture, the change in tone, looking away.
Hmm.
Instead of just reacting to their behavior as, say, rude or aggressive, you can recognize it as a potential sign that they've been triggered. Maybe their raised voice isn't an attack on you, but a sign their sense of autonomy just got threatened.
So you see the signal, not just the noise.
Right. And you can respond differently. You can try to de-escalate their trigger, put out their fire, instead of just throwing fuel on it by getting triggered yourself. You meet potential threat with curiosity.
Okay, that's the mindset shift. But in that split second, when you feel that heat rising, what are the practical tools? Fisher gives 3 specific ones, right?
Yes, the hands-on stuff. First is the conversational breath, and it's not just take a deep breath, it's specific.
How does it work?
You inhale through your nose. Then at the top of the inhale, you take another quick, sharp inhale, like a little extra sip of air, and then you exhale slowly and completely. You can repeat that rhythm.
An extra little inhale. What does that do?
It actually triggers a natural calming reflex in your nervous system, similar to a sigh. It interrupts the stress response, clears your head slightly, regulates your heart rate, and buys you that crucial second to choose your next words instead of just blurting something out.
He uses that Elizabeth deposition example, right?
Right?
She used the breath to handle intense questioning.
Exactly. The lawyer was rushing her, being aggressive. Before a key answer, she took that specific breath. Fisher saw it as her first word, her grounding herself, taking back control of the pace before speaking. It's a technique used in high-stress jobs for a reason. It works physically.
Simple, powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, tool number 2.
The quick scan. This is adapted from mindfulness, like yoga. When you feel that stress spike, take a conversational breath, and on the exhale, do a super fast mental scan of your body, head to toes.
In like a second.
Yeah, really fast. Just notice where you're holding tension jaw clenched, shoulders tight, stomach in knots. And, if you can, put a one-word label on the main emotion you feel. Anxious, angry, rushed.
Can you do this without anyone noticing?
Totally. You can briefly close your eyes or just do it internally. Fisher talks about practicing this until he could do it anywhere. Red lights, meetings, tense moments. It helps release the physical tension as you notice it, and labeling the emotion gives you distance from it, more control.
Awareness, creating control. Makes sense. And the third tool.
Small talks. These aren't vague affirmations like, I am calm. They're very specific, concrete phrases you say silently to yourself in the moment, tied to the context.
Like little personal instructions.
Exactly. Instead of be confident, maybe it's start with my breath, or wait for the right pitch if you tend to rush, or let the facts speak. He even used only be clemenly for one client, reminding the client to access that calm persona they'd practiced together.
He mentions doing this himself before his first trial, talking himself through it.
Yes. And it taps into how language shapes our mindset. These small talks provide a specific, actionable mental cue to override negative self-talk or reactive impulses right when you need it.
Okay, so breath, scan, small talks for the internal state. What about the pace? Because I know when I get agitated, I talk faster and faster.
Classic ignition phase symptom. Your mind races, your mouth follows, and that's prime time for saying something regrettable, putting your foot in your mouth, as he says. This is where the power of the pause is essential, deliberately slowing things down.
Seems hard to do when you're fired up.
It is, but it's incredibly effective. He talks about 2 kinds. A short pause, maybe 1 or 2 seconds, just helps you focus and signals you're being thoughtful.
Okay.
But the long pause, 5, maybe even 10 seconds, that's where the real impact lies, especially when things are tense or someone's being difficult.
10 seconds of silence. That
Yeah.
sounds awkward.
It feels awkward. And that's partly why it works. He calls it a mirror. For you, it's golden time. Regulate your breath, calm down, think clearly. But for the other person, it makes them sit with whatever they just said. That silence makes their words hang in the air. If they said something aggressive, unfair, or even dishonest, that pause forces them to confront it. They get uncomfortable. Sometimes they'll jump in to fill the silence, maybe backtrack or even apologize before you say anything.
It flips the pressure onto them.
Interesting. Very strategic. And he found it especially powerful with people being dishonest, like that truck driver story.
The one who was lying.
Yeah. Fisher knew the guy's story didn't add up with the evidence. After a clearly false statement, Fisher just waited. Held the silence for a long time. The driver got visibly uncomfortable, started squirming crawfishing, he calls it, contradicting himself, basically unraveling his own lie under the pressure of that silence.
Because honest people are okay with silence, but dishonest people can't stand it.
That's the idea. It exposes the lack of foundation. So the pause isn't just for self-control. It can be a tool to reveal truth.
And you can use it to help someone else slow down too, like the check example.
Right. His client Chuck was rushing answers in a deposition. Fisher coached him during a break. Treat each question simply. Pause. Let it breathe. Chuck started doing it, and it totally changed his demeanor, made him seem much more credible and in control.
Okay, so wrapping up this first big idea,
Yeah.
it's really hammering home that improving communication, especially conflict, starts inside. It's not about winning or clever replies.
No, it's foundational.
It's about mastering your own internal state first, recognizing the iceberg in others, using the breath and scan to manage your own ignition, having those small talks ready, using the pause strategically to control pace and gain clarity. That's the groundwork.
Exactly. Get your own house in order before you worry about anyone else's. Control yourself first. That's the recurring theme here.
Makes total sense.
Mm.
So once you've got a better handle on your internal state, the next step is how you project yourself, how you actually speak. Which leads us to core idea 2. Confidence isn't just a feeling, it's an outcome of being assertive and using words effectively.
Yeah, this reframes confidence in a really useful way. We tend to think of it as this internal state we should just have, like, just be confident.
Or fake it till you make it.
Right, but Fisher argues you can't just will yourself to feel confident any more than you can just decide to feel happy on command. His point is feelings follow actions.
Like the clipboard example, you feel pain after being hit.
Exactly. Confidence, he says, is the feeling that comes from knowing and appreciating your strengths and your limits. It's realistic self-awareness, not arrogance.
And that self-awareness, that feeling of confidence, grows when you act assertively.
Yes, there's a feedback loop. Being assertive, which means clearly stating your needs and views, respectfully builds your confidence. And feeling more confident makes you more willing to be assertive. He calls it a life-changing combo.
Okay, so how do we kickstart that combo? If assertiveness builds confidence, where do we begin? The book says it starts with language. Every word matters.
Huge emphasis on this. Your words aren't just carrying information, they're building who you are perceived to be, your personality, your reputation. Choosing your words carefully is an investment in yourself.
He uses that email comparison, right?
Yeah, it's a great illustration. One email asking for help is long, hesitant, full of maybe and just wondering. The other is brief, clear, direct. Which one sounds more confident?
Second one, easily.
Fewer words, more confidence. It respects your time and theirs. It's more assertive.
And tied into using words carefully is ditching a really common habit, over-apologizing.
Oh, this one hits home for so many people.
Yeah.
He calls out those fake apologies, the unnecessary sorries we sprinkle everywhere.
Like, sorry, quick question. Sorry to bother you. Sorry I didn't catch that. We do it all the time. Why?
It feels polite, maybe safer, like softening the request. But Fisher argues it's actually undermining. Over time, it trains you to see yourself as an imposition, like your needs or questions are inherently bothersome.
Oof. That stings a bit. It implies your existence requires an apology.
Pretty much, it chips away at your self-worth. So, the fix.
What does he suggest?
Replace unnecessary apologies with gratitude or just nothing. Instead of sorry to interrupt, try thanks for your time, or just ask your question directly. Save real apologies for when you've actually messed up or need to show empathy. It keeps the genuine apology meaningful.
That shift from sorry for needing this to thank you for helping or just stating the need, that feels much stronger, which leads to the next point.
Stating your needs directly, making that your default setting. Start sentences with, I need.
Seems almost too simple. I need a minute. I need your input on this. I need you to understand my perspective.
It's direct, clear, and empowering. No hedging, no hoping they read your mind, no apologizing for having a need. You own it. You communicate it.
Okay, so cutting apologies, stating needs. What other language patterns weaken our assertiveness or confidence?
Filler words and what he calls underselling. Fillers the likes, you knows. They're okay informally, but in more serious settings, they signal hesitation, make you sound less sure.
And underselling, what's that?
Using phrases that downplay your statement or request before you even make it. I think maybe, this might be a dumb question, but just wanted to quickly add.
Oh yeah, guilty. It feels like trying not to take up too much space.
It does, but it makes you sound insecure. It can even put the other person in the awkward spot of having to reassure you. No, it's fine. It subtly reinforces the idea that your contribution isn't as valuable.
So the fix is?
Replace fillers with a brief pause. Silence is better than, and just cut the underselling phrases. State your thought or question directly. Here's my idea. I have a question about X.
Okay, building confidence. Intentional words, no fake apologies, state needs, cut fillers, and underselling. Now for the tricky part. How do you disagree assertively without starting a fight?
Right, this is advanced level. First step, he says, is always the is it worth it filter.
Like, do I really need to engage on this?
hmm
Especially politics, religion, trivial stuff.
Exactly. Is getting pulled into an argument vortex actually productive? Don't feel obligated to defend every hill. Choose your battles.
Smart. But, okay, say you do need to voice disagreement. What's the approach?
Crucially, avoid starting with, I disagree. Even I respectfully disagree.
Why not? It's direct.
Because what the other person often hears is simply, you're wrong. And boom, defenses go straight up. Especially if their competence or identity feels attacked, it shuts down the conversation before it starts.
Okay, so if I disagree is out, what's in?
This is where he gives 3 really useful alternative phrases, depending on the situation. 1, from my vantage point, use this when you see the same facts differently or you want to offer a broader context. It frames it as your perspective.
Okay, vantage point. What else?
2, from where I see it. This works well when you disagree on the best approach or solution, or feel they're missing key factors. It's about your assessment based on what you're considering.
Got it. And the third?
3, I tend to lean the opposite. This is good when your position is rooted more in your values, experience, or you just draw a different conclusion from the same info. It highlights your personal inclination or history.
These feel softer,
Right.
less like a direct challenge.
Exactly. They're walls down phrases. They state your position without directly attacking theirs. And if they push back, the advice is to calmly repeat the phrase, reinforcing your stance without escalating.
Okay, disagreeing respectfully is about careful phrasing. What about protecting yourself more generally? Setting boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries are presented not as being difficult, but as how you communicate your values to the world. Your non-negotiables, health, family time, self-respect. A value like family first becomes a boundary when your actions show others they can't cross it, like saying no to things that violate that priority.
The action makes it real. You're like the bouncer for your own well-being.
Perfect analogy. He suggests writing down specific boundary statements for yourself. Clear lines like, I don't respond to disrespect. I don't make decisions under pressure. I don't engage when I'm not ready.
Having them written down gives you clarity and resolve in the moment.
Yes, it replaces being swayed by others with following your process. And there are boundary phrases for redirecting conversations too.
Right.
Boundary of presence. I'm here because helps refocus if they bring up unrelated stuff. Boundary of purpose. I'm here to talk about X. Corrects them if they attack your character instead of the issue. And boundary of integrity. I'm not going there with you. Firmly stops outlandish or baiting comments.
So these are tools to steer things back or just shut down unproductive paths.
Exactly. And once you state a boundary calmly, clearly it's a full stop. No justifying, no long explanations if they ignore it. Then you state the consequence. If you continue X, then Y will happen. Consistency is everything.
And people might not like it initially.
Oh, definitely not everyone. If they benefited from your lack of boundaries, they'll feel a loss of privilege. But the people who value you will respect it. It's a filter for relationships. Discomfort often means the boundary is working and was needed.
So wrapping up idea 2. Real confidence comes from assertive action. Choose words wisely, ditch weak language, state needs clearly, disagree skillfully with those alternative phrases, and define and defend your values with boundaries. That builds self-respect and credibility.
It's about acting your way into confidence, not just thinking about it. Earned, not just felt.
Okay, controlling ourselves first, then speaking with confidence and assertiveness. Core idea 3 brings it all together. How we structure the interaction itself by framing conversations for connection, especially the hard ones.
Right. The idea here is that productive conversations need a clear goal, a frame. Without one or with too many competing goals, conversations just wander aimlessly. It feels like talking about nothing, as he puts it.
Like the shoe shopping analogy, too many choices are confusing.
Exactly. Limit the options, get a better outcome. Same with conversations. Vague openings like can we talk create anxiety. Waiting till the end to make your point loses people. The frame gives immediate clarity and direction.
So how do you actually set the frame effectively? He has 3 steps for this.
Yes, a simple, powerful process to start strong. 1, tell them clearly what you want to talk about. Reduces the anxiety of the unknown right away.
Okay, state the topic.
2, tell them how you want to feel afterwards or what you hope the outcome will be. This sets a shared goal, understanding, resolution, clarity, whatever it is.
So topic and desired feeling or outcome. Nice.
3, get their commitment. Explicitly ask, are you willing to talk about X with the goal of Y? Get their buy-in.
That creates partnership from the start, even if the topic's tough.
It really does. Then once you're in the conversation, you need to stay in frame. Keep it on track.
How do you do that?
Use keywords from the topic. State the obvious if needed. Hey, we seem to be getting off track. And if they try to derail things, which often happens defensively.
Yeah, bringing up old stuff, attacking character.
Right. He suggests a gentle but firm 3-step redirect. 1, acknowledge their tangent briefly. I hear you're frustrated about that other thing. 2, remind them of the agreed frame. But I thought we agreed to focus on X today. 3, immediately pivot back to the original topic.
Acknowledge, remind, redirect. Keep pulling it back to the agreed path.
Exactly. Don't get sucked into the detour. And this ties right back to managing defensiveness, which the book stresses again is that bright line indicator that connection is broken.
Defensiveness really is the wall going up.
Totally. He uses that text message example, getting just K instead of OK. How easily we can read negativity into that, especially if we're already feeling a bit insecure.
Oh, yeah. Assume the worst, get defensive, and spiral. Confirmation bias kicks in.
We look for evidence to prove our negative assumption right. The cure, he repeats, is grace, giving the benefit of the doubt. Assume positive intent unless proven otherwise. Taking things personally is like carrying a heavy weight that isn't yours.
Put it down. I like that.
Giving grace fosters positivity. Taking things personally breeds negativity. It's a choice.
So grace is the antidote. And we already covered stopping our defensiveness. Pause, let words fall, get curious.
Right. And then there are the proactive ways to prevent triggering defensiveness in others. He highlights 3 language shifts again.
1, start with I, not you. Focus on your experience, I felt. Not blame, you did.
Keeps their defenses down. 2, avoid starting questions with why. It sounds accusatory. Use what, when, or how. Instead, what led to that? How did you see it? Less challenging.
And 3.
Acknowledge first. Before you state your view, validate something they said or felt. That makes sense. I can see why you'd feel that way. Shows you heard them, keeps the door open. Just avoid, yeah, but.
Little shifts, big impact on keeping the walls down.
Definitely. Okay, so we have framing, staying in frame, managing defensiveness. What about when the conversation topic itself is just plain hard? Delivering bad news, confrontation?
Yeah, they're really tough ones.
The book argues a lot of the difficulty comes from not preparing the start intentionally. If you handle the beginning well, you remove a lot of the pain. 3 steps for starting difficult conversations.
Okay, what are they?
1, set aside dedicated time, no ambushes. Ask for a specific, undistracted block of time. Respects the topic, respects them. No vague, got a sec, request that breeds anxiety. Be specific.
Give it the space it deserves, makes sense.
2, drop the pleasantries, be direct, especially for bad news, like firing someone. Don't do awkward small talk first. So how's things? It feels fake, builds dread. Being direct, while tough for you, is kinder.
Like the termination example. This will be difficult to hear. I need to let you go. Clear, respectful, gets right to it.
Clarity is kindness in those moments. It lets them process. And the 3rd step for starting tough talks.
What's number 3?
Begin with your end. State your main point, your conclusion, right at the beginning. Like the in conclusion slide first.
Lead with the headline, not the backstory.
Exactly. Example. Instead of listing lobby problems, start with, I think we need a more welcoming lobby, then explain why. It gives immediate context, anchors the details, prevents them getting lost, wondering where you're going. Works for emails too, get to the point.
Counterintuitive maybe, but efficient and clear.
Oh.
Okay, final piece here. Being on the receiving end. Being a safe space for others.
Crucial for relationships. How you react when someone brings you something difficult or vulnerable determines if they'll ever do it again. He shares that story about his son cutting his shirt.
Ah, yes, the confession.
Fisher didn't react with anger. He listened, asked gentle questions. What happened? Validated the courage. Thank you for telling me the truth. Then set the boundary. Let's not do that again. No immediate lecture or fixing.
So the key is listening, validating.
Exactly. Using phrases like, thank you for telling me. I'm listening. Tell me more. What was that like? Signals acceptance, not judgment. It makes it safe to be vulnerable. The takeaway is, difficult conversations happen. See them as chances for deeper connection, not just problems to avoid. Using these tools, framing, managing defensiveness, being direct, being safe, helps turn difficulty into connection.
Shifting from battle to building understanding. That's a powerful reframe.
It really is. Focusing on understanding over being right. That's another one of those key ideas that keeps coming up.
Wow. Okay, that was a deep dive indeed. So much practical stuff in there from Fisher's work. Let's quickly recap the big three takeaways.
Sounds good.
First, it all starts with you. Control your internal state breath, triggers, pace via the pause. Job one.
Foundational. Self-mastery first.
Second, genuine confidence is an outcome of assertive action. Word choice matters. State needs directly. Cut weak language, disagree skillfully, set boundaries. That's how you build it.
Earned confidence through deliberate action.
Right. And third, frame conversations for connection. Be clear on intent and outcome. Stay on track. Manage defensiveness with grace. Be direct and prepared for tough talks, and aim to be a safe space for others.
Structure for understanding, not just talking.
And remember, this isn't about mastering everything overnight. What was the author's core advice on applying this?
Pick one thing, just one technique or idea that resonated most with you right now.
Maybe it's the conversational breath. Maybe it's replacing sorry. Maybe it's trying from my vantage point.
Whatever it is, commit to practicing just that one thing consistently for a bit. Let it become natural before adding more. Small steps build the new habit.
Consistency is key. Turns the idea into reality. And that final thought from the book about the impact of our words.
Yeah, that ripple effect. How you communicate doesn't just stay in that one conversation. It affects relationships, influences others, shapes things in ways you might never even know. Your words really do define you.
It gives weight to every interaction, doesn't it? Which brings us to our final thought to leave you with, kind of building on all this. If, like Fisher suggests, trying to win an argument usually means losing the connection.
Then what does success in a conversation actually look like? It shifts the goalposts entirely, doesn't it?
Right. Maybe success isn't about proving you're right. Maybe it's successfully creating understanding, or navigating a disagreement while keeping respect intact, or maybe just forging a connection through shared vulnerability.
A different kind of win.
So the challenge for you, listening, in your next conversation, especially one you think might be tough, try shifting your focus. Instead of aiming to be right, aim purely for understanding. Understanding yourself, understanding them. How might that single shift change the whole dynamic? How might it change how you feel afterward?
Just try observing. Watch for the signs ignition, defensiveness. Notice the framing, or lack of it. Listen to the word choices, yours and theirs. Are there I statements? Why? Questions? Moments of grace? Simply noticing is the first huge step toward change.
A fantastic place to start. The new way to listen, and hopefully a new way to have your next conversation.
Absolutely.
That wraps up this deep dive into Jefferson Fisher's The Next Conversation. We really hope exploring these ideas gives you some concrete tools and maybe a new perspective for the conversations ahead in your own life.